Hi guys, so today's video is going to be my November TBR. As it is for most people, November is going to be a very busy month for me. I am very curious though, for those of you who love to read and write, how many of you are participating in NaNoWriMo? And for those of you that are like, what did she just say? NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. The goal is to write 50,000 words in just the month of November. I have done it the past few years. I'm not necessarily doing it this year though, but for those of you that are participating, good luck to all of you. I'm really excited for all of you. And if you are participating and you're looking to maybe have an online community of people where you guys can chat about your projects, give each other tips, encouragement, things like that, I went ahead and made a little Facebook group for all of you. So feel free to join that so that way you can chat with other people who are participating. Anyway, getting into books for the month of November, I feel like my TBR is going to be kind of boring because a lot of what I'm planning on reading is just going to be continuations of series or rereads for me, and it's a lot of stuff that you guys, I feel like, already know that I like, but who cares? That's fun. That's exciting. So the first thing is that I'm going to be continuing my reread of the Stormlight Archive books. I have been, at the time I'm filming this, it's actually a fair amount before November, so I'm currently still rereading Way of Kings, but it's, the reread for it has been lovely. I think there's this fear when I reread books that I'm not going to like them as much, because sometimes that happens, and so far that is not happening at all with Way of Kings. I'm especially excited because my husband, he read Way of Kings a long time ago before he and I met, and then he just recently reread it and he really liked Way of Kings, but he's never read Words of Radiance before, and it has been so difficult for me to keep this like everything I want to talk about with him, I can't. And so it's finally, have you guys had that before where there's been something that somebody you really love finally gets to read, and then you're like, yay, I can finally just it's like you've been bursting with the, like, wanting to burst to talk about this thing, and you finally can? That's what November is going to be for me. Moving on from Words of Radiance, the next book and the last book in the Arc of the Scythe series is coming out in November, and I plan on reading it. Scythe is one of those books that the premise sounds so weird and morbid, and I found fascinating every time I heard somebody talk about it. It is our own world, but in the far future, where we've basically conquered death. There's really no threats to mankind. We don't have to worry about war, disease, aging, all of that. No worries. Except we do have to worry about overpopulation because nobody is dying and our planet can't sustain people. So the solution is to have these individuals known as scythes who go around and they kill people. The first book follows two individuals who are apprenticing under a scythe to become scythes themselves potentially, and you see that these two teenagers, neither one of them want to be scythes, but that's kind of the very reason that the person who is they're apprenticing under, that is why he chose them, because they start to see how important it is that they have that reservation to kill, because not every scythe has that. Some scythes perhaps enjoy their professions a little too much. It's a very morbid concept, but I really like what Schusterman, I've heard both ways, I don't know which one's right, but I think he does this concept so well. He has so many things that come up throughout the story of what it means to live, what it means to die, what it means to age, and he just has really fascinating things that come up without it being done in a very pretentious way. He delivers everything in a very forward writing style. It's super easy to get into, and I just think he does such a great job with it. But man, the second book left off with such a cliffhanger. I have no idea what's going to happen in the third one, and I really want to know. The next book that I'm wanting to get around to is another third book in a trilogy. It would be the last book in the Folk of the Air, and that would be The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I have to say, I love both adult and young adult fantasy, and I personally don't understand how all of us who just love to read stories about people that don't exist in really interesting worlds with magic and dragons and awesome, just in general. It's all make-believe. I've never understood people that are like, my make-believe books were marketed for someone my age, so I'm smarter for reading something for my age. I've never understood that like thing where you think you're smarter because you're reading something that's marketed toward, you know, your age range. I've just never understood it. Like, if somebody wants to go to the movies and something's PG-13, I don't think I'm ever going to be like, well, you know, that movie, it didn't have lots of the F word, so like, if you want to watch it, that's okay, but just, you're kidding yourself if you think it's meaningful. The point of that random tangent is basically to say that I generally find that those people that think that they're make-believe stories that have slightly more sex and cursing in them and maybe more slightly adult themes, the individuals that tend to think that like, I'm super smart because I read that one instead, they usually have this idea in their head of what young adult fiction is. And I'm like, not all young adult fiction is that. Not that you would know, because it's not like you pick up a lot of young adult fiction. But the Folk of the Air series is totally, it's exactly, I feel like, the negative. Not negative, but just the stereotypes that people have for young adult fiction of just like the like toxic relationships and the drama of it all and the scheming and the YA female that's just like, I gotta be tough, and it's just all nonsense and drama and fun. I'm like, yeah, that's what that series is, and I don't care because I find it super entertaining. I didn't necessarily like the first one. I didn't hate the first one, but for me the first one was just okay. It was intriguing enough for me to pick up the second one, and then the second one I was just super into it. I didn't want to put it down. I had such a good time reading it, and it was one of those like, what? Oh, no. Like those, like, we all like to occasionally, or I shouldn't say all of us, I like to occasionally read books like that. I just think it makes it fun. I mean, some books are super meaningful, and then other books are super entertaining, and I think it's okay that we have both. I don't think that one type is exclusive to adult and one type is exclusive to young adult, but I still like it every now and then mixed in with my other reading, and I want to see how this is going to wrap up. Next up, we have another sequel, which would be Starsight, the sequel to Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and this is one of those stories that, because the young adult age range is so big, sometimes they can have very different tones to them, and I find that this one definitely leans toward the younger side of young adult. It definitely feels like something that somebody who's 10 years old could even pick up if they're transitioning into this particular age range of books. And when I first picked it up, I was like, is this going to be a little too young for me? But then I fell in love with it. I really loved it. I feel like it was almost annoying how perfect the pacing was for me, because it was just every time that you would get intense stuff, and then you would get really good character development, and then you would have really good camaraderie or character relationship building, and then all of a sudden, boom, you have intense stuff, and then an emotional moment. It was just always something, and I had so much fun with it. I have no idea what's going to happen in this next book, which is something that I always really like, and I don't really know what the focus of the next book is going to be. I've kind of avoided looking at sneak peeks and things like that because I want to go into it just as I wasn't completely clueless. I knew the synopsis of the first one, but I just want to basically know nothing and pick it up and see what happens. So I'm really excited about it. I like Sanderson books. Big surprise. Besides those books, I will try to get around to finishing up some books that I'm reading at the end of this particular month, October, as well as if I have the time to pick up some other books, I will. But one thing I do want to let you guys know, for those of you that have been doing this particular read along, the Malisan books, I don't know if I'm going to pick up the third one in November, just because I really need to make sure I spend a lot of my time writing my own book, the sequel to Peace and Turmoil. The next one is Remnants of Dawn. I really need to make sure I dedicate a lot of time to it, and so I might not have as much time to read that one, and I don't want to, I know it's epic fantasy, I know there's a lot to it, and you got to really have your mind focused on it, and I don't want to I don't want to go into it not paying attention. I don't feel like that's fair to the book or to you guys if I do reviews and stuff like that, so that one's on the fence. But if you don't see me reading the third book, that would be why. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you're planning to read in the month of November, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Bye.